Alright guys, time to quite a bit back again today. I hope you're enjoying your day so far. Today we're going to talk about content in Call of Duty Esports. The last couple of years it's certainly been a big discussion around teams. Okay, are they going to stream scrims? Is streaming scrims good for certain teams? We had RCTs talking not too long ago about the fact that, okay, Scump and Co streaming the scrims over the Chicago Hunter was detracting to a degree from their practice. However, it certainly can be seen that a number of teams are doing it right at the start of the season, and it's certainly a positive for the Call of Duty scene. The potential that Call of Duty has to reach out to people and reach out to more casual fan bases, especially if they're streaming, well, practice and streaming aids every single day, day in, day out. The potential influx of new fans to Call of Duty is going to be spectacular if it does continue as it has done for these first couple of weeks. And we're going to look at a couple of clips today from Hector Rodriguez, of course, over at OpTic Chicago and NRG, and also Douglas Censor Martin discussing why content is just so important for the esports community as a whole to grow, and why we're not quite at the point yet where players can just compete to win and hope that that's going to be enough to sustain their career. Because certainly if you're a player right now and you're thinking, okay, do I just go all out for victories, or do I actually make some content? Probably makes some more sense to at least do something on the content side, given the fact that, well, your job in this esport isn't exactly particularly sustainable, right? It's not guaranteed that this esport is going to continue for another 10-20 years and has built the fan base behind it. You kind of probably have to be a part of that growth in order to help the scene become sustainable so that you actually can focus on purely winning for the next, I suppose, 5-10 years of your career, if it possibly can last that long. Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoy the video, subscribe if you are new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Really helps out the channel. Thank you very much for doing that. So these first few days, some interesting things going on. Dashy, of course, streaming OpTic scrims. They've been, well, scrimming a fair bit. Got Scump as well. Second day of scrims, as we can see. Some other teams, of course, as well. Crimsix was scrimming OpTic, and he was doing this on stream. That's pretty cool to see, as well. It's smoking OpTic. It's kind of entertaining. But regardless, we tend to see that Dallas Empire, I mean, certainly I think at the start of the season, the middle of the season, when there's events going on, they will dial down the scrim streaming, because there's a reason, right, where most teams don't tend to do this. But I suppose as long as they're making content outside of that, it's still contributing to the growth of competitive Call of Duty on the whole. But yes, certainly esports more generally is a pretty volatile field, and the more you can do as a professional player to try and grow the scene on the content side is certainly going to help you out, because I do worry for some of these guys that are making an absolute bag on a contract right now, and they're spending a lot of money on the Gucci belt and all this type of stuff, whereas in a couple of years time, maybe when that job dries up and they're not as good as they once were, all of a sudden what are their options, right? Because Call of Duty maybe hasn't been built to the degree where they can just like go into another position and have a perfectly functioning career. They may be stuck, without a college degree, and things might be quite difficult. And I imagine that this will affect some players in the coming years, at least on the current trajectory, and maybe already is doing, quite frankly, with this move to 4v4 that we've had this season. So there's certainly a great argument to be said that you should stream content, or you should make content not only for your own personal success and branding success, because certainly if you're an organization looking at these players thinking, okay, this is fantastic, this guy's making a load of content, he's a big name in the community, he's often having Deserto writing articles about him and stuff, so getting his name out there, and therefore it helps grow your own personal brand and also make you more valuable to organizations, and therefore as a result grow competitive Call of Duty in terms of what you can bring to organizations and bringing new fans into competitive play, and maybe build you a network or build you a Twitch following to the degree where when it does come to a time to retiring from Call of Duty, you actually can do something different. There's a number of reasons really why, well, so many big names I suppose in the Call of Duty scene, the likes of Hex, the likes of Scump, the likes of Nadeshot, have really carried competitive Call of Duty's content stuff for the first several years of Call of Duty's growth, and it's no surprise that they are the biggest team in the game. So can you afford right now to be a team that doesn't necessarily do this type of content? We can look at a couple of different perspectives in a couple of minutes here, and TJ Halley, of course, on this Los Angeles Thieves team, I imagine they are certainly going to be big on the content side. 100 Thieves as an organization certainly was back in the 02-100 stuff when they were around during Black Ops 4. I imagine this is certainly going to be something that Nadeshot is going to promote this season, but of course winning certainly is a big priority for them. There's a tough thing to match, right, between a win to scrims, take away from your potential winning, but as you can see, TJ and Co streaming it as well. So I happened to be watching this podcast yesterday, which is the Eavesdrop podcast with the Deserto guys, and X makes some pretty interesting comments about the importance of content and what that did for his brand and OpTic back in the day, but also the fact that if a tree falls in a forest but nobody's around to hear you win the championship, did you actually really win the championship, right? And that's certainly something which I think he thinks that we should continue growing for the upcoming years, or Call of Duty might be in a difficult spot. And certainly there's an opinion from Censor which very much matches that, right? He's like, okay, why are these teams not making content? If these players don't make the content that, well, I used to do back in the day on the Call of Duty side, and Scump and Co still do to this day, and Censor, of course, will probably continue on a similar manner this season through the Challenger side, Call of Duty is not going to be in a good position in a few years' time. We need to take advantage of this opportunity of the personalities that we have in the scene.
Like, who's going to care in the long scheme of COD about the most, like, we have some great talent in this league. I could just name 10 off the top of my head. Arcides, Envoy, Simp, Abizi, Celium, Priesta, Major Maniac, Attach, you know, I could go Gunless, Enable, like I could go on and on and on. No one's going to care about any of these people in the long run if we don't build our legacy now with huge branding and content, because the league isn't going to be here in 5 years if we don't have that. And I don't think these league owners, and I tried to tell this to my owner, I tried to tell this to everyone on social media. I was like, yo, Farzam, like, you're going to lose a lot of money if you don't have me making YouTube videos like Team Scrimming against FaZe, where I'm getting 300,000 views in the video to sell sponsorships and get you more followers. Because at the end of the day, this business is about growing a following and getting more engaged audiences to watch the sport. But if we just have these players who just sit here and sip 300 milligrams of caffeine a day and just try to get the best competitive edge and only focus about COD and only focus about winning, and don't care about their branding, and it's a lot of work to put in time for branding, then our league isn't going to go anywhere. So there's a lot of pressure on these players right now to do that, because the league can't do it for the players. The league has to hope these players could become the next Nate Shot, and that's only going to come through their drive, through their willing to want to have more money outside of the league, and to be able to listen to other guys in the league like myself, like Nate, like Seth, like Octane. You got to follow these guys, and you got to learn from them, and we all have to help each other in order for this thing to work out in the end. Cut and dry mentality of I need to be number one to secure my $250,000 contract, or else I'm screwed. I don't want to care about content, because if I do content, I'm not going to be the best player. And that's a whole way of thinking that this league has, and it's never going to work for anyone at the end of the day. I think everyone needs to do a better job of content creation. And
well, Scump did that without having to, you know, like all this players' earnings is just counting the things that they won on tournaments. But then when I know the real numbers, and I'm looking at that and saying, I'm like, yeah, that's a lot of money, but there's way more money over here that he's done on his own stuff.
100%.
You know what I'm saying?
You know, and it increases what you can demand for a salary if you're more marketable as well. You know,
tell you the problem with esports, right, is that there's this core.
Here he is.
There's this core. There's this core of esports, right, and everyone's worried about what this core in esports thinks. Nobody's thinking about how to get how to get more people interested. If it just stays the same small amount of people, it's never going to grow.
You're not going to be the pro player that the pro players from 5 years from now are going to be, where their job will be only to win championships. But we have to build that audience for that to be successful. We have to build that interest in the sport before people will actually be like interested in just the winning.
So the big question to me really is a guy like Arcides, right, or some of the FaZe clan team more generally. As you can see right here, he's streaming Ace just a couple of days ago. He's also, you know, they made a video like a 4v4 tournament that they played with the squad, so that's certainly cool to see, right? They win tournaments and stuff, they chuck it up on YouTube channel, or maybe do some sick edit or something like that. That seems pretty cool to see, and of course, it does make a significant impact on the scene. However, it's very clear that Atlanta FaZe, their key #1 focus is on winning championships, right? Like, really, the content side is not to, you know, it doesn't really pervade these guys thinking too much, and I can certainly understand that, right? But you've got to consider that these guys on this team are, like, 4 of the best Call of Duty gamers in the entire world. There's no doubt that a lot of people would say if you had to put together a 4-man God squad, a lot of players would just put together this team, right? Simp and Abizi, your SMG duo, Celium is like the perfect flex role, like a Game 5 Iceman, and then we've got Arcides, who's like a fantastic in-game leader, and also an assault rifle, right? So it certainly makes sense. This team is obviously filthy on paper. They've been doing very well in scrims these first few days of the game. However, you have to look at it and say, look, these guys are such talented players, but yeah, how big are their brands, right? Like, how many Twitter followers does Simp have? Does Abizi have? A lot of people, I think, stumbled across Simp because his name is obviously kind of hilarious to a degree, but yeah, it's very different when you look at these players to look in someone like Envoy, right? So Envoy, of course, has joined OpTic Chicago, formerly Chicago Huntsman the previous season, and he's certainly very involved in the content side and streaming his perspective on occasion, and yeah, very involved in their YouTube presence and this type of stuff, and Envoy is building building a bigger brand presence, I suppose. Whereas these guys, who are equally talented players, if not more talented, and have probably a better team, are definitely more focused on the content stuff. And can that be maintained over time? If FaZe just say, okay, we're not going to make any content this entire season, I don't think that's what they're going to do. They're going to make some content, but clearly, winning is certainly the #1 priority for this team. Whereas for a team like OpTic Chicago, definitely content is the #1 priority. Building sponsorships, building a fan base for Call of Duty, but also their own personal team, so they can get sponsorships and they can, get more money to build a better team, I suppose. And Censor seems to certainly be of the opinion that if guys like this, who are the most talented players in the Call of Duty League, aren't making a really big effort to building their presence and building their fan base, what does that mean for the rest of the scene in a couple of years' time if Simp and Abizi are still running things in like 5 years' time from today, but they haven't really taken advantage of this opportunity of being the best team to actually build up that brand, right? And Hector said something pretty interesting as well, I'm not sure I exactly shared it, but he said you really have to build a proper fan base around something before people will actually respect you and become fans of you just for purely winning the game. And I think you can see right here, I mean, you look at some of these teams for next season, certainly a lot of them will be making an attempt to make content. I think that the Ravens made some attempt this season on the Warzone side, and some content hit or miss really. Thieves certainly will. Rockers certainly have been giving it a go. Subliners, Chicago, no doubt about that. Seattle Surge were actually trying somewhat on their YouTube channel last season, but definitely need to see more where that came from, and Ultra as well. So these are some of the teams that, at least in terms of streaming scrims, I think Toronto's been doing so. Some of these teams have been doing so, but certainly FaZe, I think, will shut that down, and Dallas Empire will probably shut that down at some point. And most of the teams probably will end up, dialing back the practice streaming at least, apart from probably OpTic Chicago, because that's certainly a high thing on the agenda. So really interesting to see. I'm certainly intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. What you think Call of Duty players should do going forward. Do you think they should all stream practice and all make content and this type of stuff? Or do you think we now are over that hump where players can just focus on winning and build a fan base as a result, because Call of Duty has a pretty solid following as it is already? Certainly intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Just to finish off with this very briefly, there was this that came out yesterday, leaked map names for season 1, so December the 10th, June, Mall and Echelon. So hopefully this goes well. Hopefully at least 1 or 2 of these are like a remake of some old Black Ops maps. I would love that to be the case, but we'll have to see how things develop going forward. Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. Really helps out the YouTube algorithm know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well and help grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care, and I will see you next time.